The Cambridgeshire Fens at night, a sprawling expanse of land steeped in history and mystery, are a world of silence, a place where the hustle and bustle of modern life fades into a distant hum. Here, even the wind seems to whisper secrets, carrying tales of bygone eras and forgotten souls through the swaying reeds. It's a place where the veil between worlds feels thin and the past lingers in the air. On October 12, 1988, a date that would forever be etched in the annals of local history, that silence was broken, shattered by an event that would send ripples of fear and uncertainty through the tranquil community. It happened at an isolated farmhouse, a beacon of light amidst the vast darkness of the Fens. Eleanor Vance, a retired librarian, a woman of routine and quiet habits, was settling in for the night, unaware that this particular evening would be her last. Her routine was as predictable as the landscape outside, a comforting rhythm in the solitude of the Fens. But a single creak upstairs, a sound that didn't belong, shattered her peace, instantly replacing it with a chilling premonition. She paused, listening, every nerve on high alert, straining to decipher the source of the disturbance. Then she heard a footstep, unmistakably human, solidifying her worst fears. Dread settled over her, a cold wave washing over her senses. The safety of her home, once a sanctuary, was now revealed to be a fragile illusion. The next morning, the sun rose on a scene that would forever haunt the community. Police found Eleanor in her chair, lifeless and still. Her book lay fallen on the floor, a silent testament to the interrupted peace. There was no sign of struggle or forced entry, adding another layer of mystery to the already perplexing scene. Everything was eerily undisturbed, almost staged, a macabre tableau. Except for a small, hand-carved wooden bird, an out-of-place object in an otherwise perfectly arranged room. It sat perched on the mantelpiece, seemingly watching over the scene. Its blank eyes stared into the room, devoid of emotion, yet somehow conveying a chilling message. It was a silent signature, a mark left by an unseen hand. This was the first sign, the initial breadcrumb in a trail of terror, of a new kind of predator in the Fens, one far more cunning and sinister than any they had encountered before. He moved like a ghost, unseen and unheard, leaving not chaos, the typical hallmark of violence, but a chilling order, a disturbing sense of control. The local police, used to petty crimes and the occasional domestic dispute, were utterly baffled, out of their depth in the face of such calculated malice. The wooden bird was a message, a taunt. A killer had arrived, and he wanted them to know it. He was one who savored the artistry of his work, meticulously crafting each scene with a disturbing attention to detail. The Fens, with their endless waterways, a labyrinthine network of canals and rivers and mist, a perpetual shroud that concealed secrets and obscured vision, had become the hunting ground, the stage for a deadly game. It was now the domain for a methodical, merciless presence, a predator lurking in the shadows. The silence that once comforted, the tranquil stillness that defined the Fens, now concealed something far more sinister, a darkness that threatened to consume everything in its path. The world would soon learn to fear the quiet, to recognize the danger that lurked beneath the surface of serenity. The killer's calling card was not just a clue, it was more than just a piece of evidence to be analyzed. It was a declaration, a bold statement of intent, a promise of more to come. The Fens would never be the same, forever tainted by the darkness that had been unleashed, and the silence would never again feel safe, forever haunted by the memory of what it had concealed. The press, in their attempts to capture the essence of his dark deeds, called him the Fenland Phantom. It was a moniker meant to instill fear, to paint a picture of a spectral menace haunting the wetlands, a name that never quite caught on outside the Fens. The vast, isolating landscape seemed to swallow the fear, keeping it contained within its borders. Arthur Selby was his real name, a name as unremarkable as the man himself. It's a name that fades into the background, easily forgotten. A man so unremarkable he was invisible. He moved through the world unnoticed, a ghost in his own life, even before his crimes began. He wasn't a charismatic monster, no captivating charm or magnetic personality to draw people in, or a media sensation. He didn't crave the spotlight, didn't seek to shock or outrage. His evil thrived in anonymity, in the spaces between the headlines, in the blind spots of society, in the quiet spaces people overlook, the places where darkness festers and secrets are buried deep. The fens themselves helped keep his story hidden, their vastness and remoteness acting as a shield against prying eyes. Isolated, both geographically and socially, wary of outsiders, slow to share news. They kept to themselves, their lives intertwined with the land. Selby's crimes were whispered locally, hushed tones in dimly lit pubs and around kitchen tables, never making national headlines. His story remained a local tragedy, a dark secret buried in the fens. He had no dramatic backstory, no childhood trauma to explain away his actions, no twisted manifesto, no grand plan, no ideological justification for his horrific acts. He was a bakery delivery driver, a familiar face on the rural routes, bringing bread and pastries to the isolated communities. Polite but forgettable, a fleeting presence, easily dismissed, quickly overlooked. His normality was his camouflage, the perfect disguise for the darkness he concealed. And his most terrifying trait, the ability to blend in, to appear harmless, to lull his victims into a false sense of security. Monsters don't always look like monsters. They don't always have fangs and claws. Sometimes they're the man you nod to in the morning, the friendly face you see every day. The Fenland Phantom didn't fit the mold of a media villain. He defied the expectations of what a monster should be. His motives were murky, lost in the depths of his disturbed mind, impossible to fully comprehend. His personality a void, an emptiness that seemed to swallow everything around him. His crimes too quiet for the spotlight. They lacked the sensationalism, the dramatic flair that attracts media attention. Selby's legacy is not notoriety, not a place in the annals of infamous criminals, but a chilling absence, a reminder of the evil that can exist unseen, unheard, and unremembered. He reminds us that evil can hide in the most ordinary places, behind the closed doors of seemingly normal homes. And that's why his story slipped through the cracks, lost in the vastness of the fens, a chilling whisper on the wind. Arthur Selby's childhood was defined by silence and neglect. Raised in a joyless home, he learned to disappear into the background. He found solace in the fens, wandering alone, carving birds from driftwood. As an adult, he drifted through menial jobs, finally settling as a bakery delivery driver. The job suited him: routine, solitude, and invisibility. He became a familiar van, not a familiar face. His victims were often elderly, living alone, people as invisible as he felt. Selby's crimes weren't about money or sadism, but about intrusion, forcing a connection on a world that ignored him. The wooden bird was his mark. I was here, I saw you, you will remember me. After a lifetime of being unseen, he left a chilling legacy. The quiet man next door had become a ghost in the fens, and his victims would never forget. Eleanor Vance's murder revealed a pattern, one that had begun with strange, unsettling burglaries. Nothing valuable was taken. Instead, small things were moved, a photograph turned, a window left open. These were rehearsals, psychological intrusions. When Selby escalated to murder, his ritual was precise. He chose isolated, elderly victims, learned their routines, and slipped in unnoticed. The killings were quick, silent, and intimate. Afterwards, he lingered, making tea, tidying, leaving the house eerily neat. The final act placing the wooden bird in plain sight. The police had little to go on. No forced entry, no clear motive, no pattern except the birds. The crime spanned counties, baffling investigators. Selby's mastery was in his patience and his understanding of the landscape. He moved unseen, leaving only silence and a wooden effigy. The fens became his stage, and the quiet his ally. The ritual was both a clue and a taunt, one that haunted the region. The hunt for the Fenland Phantom was a nightmare for police. No fingerprints, no witnesses, just grieving families and wooden birds. A profiler suggested the killer was a loner with a job that took him to remote homes, but that described half the men in the fens. Officers questioned delivery drivers, including Arthur Selby, but he blended in. The breakthrough came when a constable noticed the burglaries matched Selby's delivery route. A search of his cottage revealed driftwood whittling tools and unfinished birds. The Phantom had been hiding in plain sight. The case was cracked by patience and a sharp eye, not by drama. The quiet man was finally unmasked. Selby's arrest, while a necessary step towards justice, brought little comfort to the victims' families. The pain of their loss was a constant presence, a void that could never truly be filled. The legal proceedings, the media attention, none of it could bring back their loved ones or erase the horror they had endured. He delivered our bread, said Eleanor Vance's daughter, her voice heavy with grief and disbelief. "We trusted him. He was a part of our routine. He stole her peace, even in death." The words echoed the sentiment of many, a profound sense of violation that extended beyond the physical realm. The betrayal cut deep, a wound that festered with the knowledge that someone they knew, someone they had welcomed into their lives, was capable of such unspeakable acts. A familiar face hiding monstrous intent. The banality of evil was on full display, a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving. Detective Chief Inspector Reed recalled during the investigation, it was the quiet cruelty, the lack of remorse was disturbing. He was empty, except for pride, a chilling self-assurance that bordered on arrogance. In his wooden birds, these seemingly innocent creations became symbols of his twisted nature, a macabre reflection of the darkness within. The community's trust was shattered, leaving behind a residue of suspicion and fear. Local media documented the fear. The headlines screamed of terror and disbelief. Doors locked for the first time, a tangible manifestation of the loss of innocence. Neighbors wary, their eyes scanning the streets with newfound apprehension. A ghost story made real. The idyllic countryside now felt tainted, haunted by the spectre of Selby's crimes. Even Selby's neighbors were stunned, struggling to reconcile the man they knew with the monster he had become. He was just Arthur, always polite, always helpful. You'd never have thought it. The sentiment was echoed throughout the community, a collective expression of shock and disbelief. The shock was not loud but corrosive, a silent poison seeping into the foundations of their lives. A slow erosion of safety, a gradual chipping away at their sense of security. People looked at each other differently, their eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and vulnerability, wondering what secrets hid behind closed doors, what darkness might be lurking beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. The Fens lost a bit of their innocence, the idyllic landscape forever tainted by the horrors that had unfolded. The impact lingered, a persistent echo of the past that refused to fade away completely. Not as a scream, but as a quiet ache, a dull, throbbing pain that served as a constant reminder of their loss. The wooden birds became symbols, not of innocence or artistry, of violated trust, a constant reminder of the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of everyday life. The region would heal, slowly and painstakingly, but the scars remained, etched into the collective memory of the community. The true horror was not just the violence, the brutality of Selby's actions, but the way it crept into everyday life, poisoning the well of trust and leaving a lingering sense of unease. The Phantom's legacy was a shadow, a dark cloud hanging over the community, over the ordinary, forever altering their perception of safety and security. The silence of the Fens was never the same, now filled with the unspoken anxieties and the weight of what had been lost. The community learned that evil can wear, with terrifying ease, the most familiar face, the mask of an ordinary neighbor, a trusted friend. And that lesson would not be forgotten, a permanent reminder of the fragility of trust and the darkness that can reside within the human heart. Despite the horror, the Fenland Phantom never became a national obsession. The late 1980s lacked the media frenzy of today. The story stayed local. In the Fens, fear was real but quiet. Doors locked, neighbors checked in, but panic was rare. The threat was abstract, a shadow in the mist, not a face on a wanted poster. People struggled to accept such evil could exist among them. It was easier to see the crimes as isolated tragedies, not the work of a predator. The idea of a serial killer felt foreign, something from films, not the Fens. This denial dulled the public reaction, keeping the terror private. The silence around Selby's crimes was as deep as the Fens themselves. The fear lingered, but it never quite took hold. Arthur Selby's capture was as unremarkable as his life. No chase, no drama, just a quiet arrest on a grey morning. He confessed calmly, offering details only the killer could know. The trial was brief, the courtroom mostly empty. Selby faded into the prison system, just as he had faded into the background of the Fens. The community tried to move on. The fear receded, but sadness remained. The wooden birds became grim reminders of a unique evil. Selby died in prison, unnoticed by the world. His end was as quiet as his crimes. The Fenland Phantom became a ghost story, one most people never heard. Why did Arthur Selby's story vanish? Because his evil was quiet, his life unremarkable. No media spectacle, no dramatic chase, just a sad man in a forgotten landscape. The Fens are distant to most their tragedies, easy to ignore. Selby's capture was methodical, not cinematic. In a world hungry for drama, his story was a flat line of dread. We remember the loud, the grotesque, not the mundane evil that slips by unnoticed. Selby's obscurity is his most chilling legacy, proof that horror can fade into silence. He remains a ghost in our memory, a whisper from a forgotten corner of England.